Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live session with OnBoard. I am Becca Meshberger. I'm a senior account executive with OnBoard. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. We have scheduled this today to answer your onboard questions. What is a board platform? What is onboard? Everything surrounding that, and just talk about what it is that people ask us day to day, some frequently asked questions. So thank you so much for joining. This is really meant to be a very casual session. Admittedly, this is my first LinkedIn Live, so we're going to do the best that we can, but I'm so glad if you've joined us. I'm going to try to figure out how to look at any of the comments. For anyone that's here already, if I can get a hand hello emoji, that would be awesome, so I can see how that comes through. Let's see. Any emojis? Okay, well, even with or without, but I'm going to go through some questions that myself and my colleagues get quite often about OnBoard, but really would encourage you to submit any questions to me in the comments that you feel you're curious about, whether you have a board platform already, whether you have thought about a board platform, or whether you're just attending because you were curious, what is a board platform? And if you are watching a replay, still comment, and with your comment, hey, Rebecca, awesome. Okay, I got a couple waves. If you're watching the replay, still write your question with replay, and I'll be sure to get back to you. But before we get started into questions, it occurred to me yesterday that it was the start of the Lunar New Year. And for anyone that saw my LinkedIn post this morning, I thought it was really fitting to our event today in that yesterday started the year of the fire horse. And for anybody that follows, astrology and anything like that, that the tie-in there, the horse represents energy and independence and forward momentum, and then add fire to that. And that means bold decisions, progression, basically taking action on things. So I myself have already felt that energy this year, and I'm excited for it. But I think that in how it relates to boards could really mean there's no better time to rethink what your board is doing and how they operate. So let's get to it. First, I think the most appropriate question to start with: what the heck is a board platform? Many people don't know. 3 weeks ago, my parents had me reiterate again what it is that I sell, and went through that with them. But in the simplest way, a board platform is a secure digital place and home for everything that your board does, whether that's meetings, voting, minutes, assessments, evaluations, communication, placing that all in one location so that it is easy for everyone from the administrative side, leadership, to the board. So that is a great place to start. In terms of who transitions to a board platform, we work with people that are transitioning from paper and printed files to stored shared rooms like Dropbox or SharePoint, or even other platforms. But there are a whole host of ways that we can help. Hey, Brian, Maya. I would love to see in the comments if you could drop where you're joining in from, like what city you're joining in from. That would be fun to see. I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana. Well, I just moved here recently. We're in a temporary housing right now. We close on a new house tomorrow. It's great. But just about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Indianapolis. So we'd love to know where anybody joining is from. Let's get to another question. One that I hear most frequently and is really important in today's environment, and especially when it comes to technology and in governance in general, is a board platform secure? And because if it's not secure, nothing else really matters. So in terms of OnBoard, we're fully hosted in Microsoft Azure. We've got all the compliances or certificates and compliance needs that in any kind of evaluation we have met. So we send our clients to a trust center where they can access those documents to verify, but single sign-on, two-factor authentication. We also allow for granular permissions. And then the AI components that are part of the OnBoard package are closed loop AI. And so that information is not being shared with others. It's not an open platform that you're getting information from other AI, but just within the platform and the governance documents that you're placing in your instance of OnBoard. Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, awesome. And of course, in Boston here. Terrific. I'll move on to another one that is pretty, one that comes around quite a bit when I'm speaking to people that have not used a board platform before. And that is, will my board actually use a platform? And this is some hesitancy that we'll often run into, especially when there are trustees or directors that are seasoned, what we like to say. And the reason that's important is because you're making this investment in a platform. You want to make sure that you're getting that return. But even more so that you're not duplicating your efforts and still handling things in a manual way in addition to using the platform. So I can't speak for other platforms, but I can speak for OnBoard and how we compare based on my knowledge of what people share to us and then reviews. But OnBoard is very easy to use, and that enables it to then allow the directors and trustees to use it. So ease of use is huge. Our product team has done a great job even in rolling out new features and functionality to make sure that it's really intuitive in the interface and make that director experience it's spot on from the time that they enter the application to when they look for their board book or when they look for something historical or archived. Even less tech savvy adopters or directors can adopt things pretty quickly. And the fact of the matter is, if directors won't use it, or if it's not easy, directors will not use it. And I've heard that time and time again, especially for clients that have come to us for that very reason from another platform, because people don't log in. And so they tend to only use a system halfway because it's just not easy to use and people aren't using it. Let me see if I've got any questions here. Please chime in with any questions, anything that you might want to add in, and I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to go through some things that I had wrote down prior to. Here's one that I get quite a bit, and this tends to happen when we speak with individuals that are looking at multiple options for a board platform. And it's what makes OnBoard different from other platforms. And I can narrow that down to probably 3 or 4 things. One I just mentioned, ease of use, and you can look at other review sites and see from our clients that we are over and over again rated the easiest to use platform. And that, again, is important. Support is extremely important, and whether that be from rolling out the platform to ongoing support or even 24/7 support. If a trustee is trying to and struggling to find something, that's really important that they have that. So we've got US-based support to handle it, as well as day-to-day customer success, or being a cheerleader for your operations for OnBoard ongoing, and then the implementation team to activate OnBoard and to get you started. And the third I would also say is our ongoing support to creating new feature functionality to stay up to date with the modern needs of boards, and being able to give boards the tools that they need, not just today, but equip them as new technology emerges and as even security requirements change. Excuse me. I will drink a little bit of my seltzer. We'll do a cheers. I am, for anyone that knows me personally, I go through about 6 of these or more a day. My dentist has not told me it's a problem yet, so I will stick to them. But black cherry polar seltzer is my thing, if you've not tried it. And it's even better on ice, but I didn't do that today. Looks like I've got a question here. How are user permissions managed? Are they different? Viewing, editing, settings per user. Okay. Thanks, Rebecca. This is one that comes up quite a bit. And our permissions can be as granular, really, as you'd like for them to be. Initially, when users log into OnBoard, everybody has a unique user ID and password tied to their login. You are only accessing the instance to OnBoard that is for your board. And then once you're in OnBoard, there are different permissions that are set depending on what you have access to. So in many cases, the boards that we work with, they'll also involve, as part of that platform, the leadership teams and staff associated with compiling and distributing the documents and involved in those meetings. And so you can set granular permissions related to any of those groups, whether it's a staff meeting, a cabinet meeting, and maybe certain people have access to view information at a granular scale for certain committee meetings, and other people don't. So upon login, you would only see the meetings that you've got access to see. Similarly to the repository of documents. So we would highly encourage that instead of storing documents outside of OnBoard that are board related, they all come into OnBoard, and that becomes the living, breathing place for all board related communication. Even in those resources, policies, bylaws, meeting minutes, committee materials, resolutions, those can all be granular permissioned as well. The next part of that are their different viewing, editing settings per user. So yeah, you can decide who can download, who can't download material. Security is extremely important, and with most of the people that we talk to, and that's just not from an infrastructure standpoint to OnBoard, but even within the platform, whose eyes are on what. And you might not want people downloading, because downloading means maybe they can print it. And if they can print it, is it left in the back seat, and is it taken to Starbucks and left on the table? Those are the kind of things that we mean when we talk about security as well. But it's also important to know that you can activate those sort of things at individual settings within the system. Oh, yeah, Worcester, I'm going to say that wrong, and I know you'll heckle me after, but representing the polar seltzer, yes. Let's see. Okay, many people, well, I'll back up a little bit. Our product team has integrated AI into the platform. And I would say in my conversations, maybe 18 months ago, if I would have entered a conversation with somebody looking at OnBoard for the first time, or the platform, even if they had a platform in place, and asked them what their thoughts were related to AI in a platform, it would have been a hard, I don't think so. That is totally different today. Has really changed significantly just in the last probably 6 months from my experience. And so to that point, a lot of people are curious, well, what does AI do? Even had a conversation last Thursday, met with them for the first time. And one of his probably first 5 questions criteria was, we want to know what AI functionality the platform has, as well as what is coming. So our AI can do several things. We've got an AI suite of features. 3 of those features are currently released, and there are 3 currently you can draft it. Think of it this way. You've got an email from the president, and he's going to hold a special meeting, and you put a quick agenda together. That email, copy and paste in our agenda builder. It'll build that agenda for you. You can plug in a document, and it'll create it from there. Generating a draft of your minutes. So you can tie in a Zoom or a Teams call to any of your meetings, hybrid or in person, and be able to not only get a transcript of that within the platform, so in a secure setting, not using an open kind of AI sourced platform, but it will then take that, use AI, and then from your agenda, build a first draft of the minutes. I did a webinar on that not too long ago, and many folks have not only seen it improve the efficiency of generating the minutes, but also it gets you 70, 80% of the way through, and then they're more accurate as well. So you can edit those after. And then also being able to recall past decisions or surface materials, even summarize items within a book of materials. A lot of folks that we chat with send pre-reads or summarizations of materials, or maybe you've got financial statements or documents in the board packet that are 500 pages long. And of course, that's a lot for people to read, and you expect them to read it, but having those summaries is really helpful. So those are a few things that are really important. Okay, what would you say to a board that is less tech savvy and technology averse? Are you teaching old dog new tricks? I love that. Yes, and I probably run into this with my clients 9 out of 10 times. And what is interesting is that upon implementing OnBoard, I would place a bet that more often than not, if you went back to those users that were less tech savvy and technology averse after implementing OnBoard, they would tell you that it's way easier than the process before, if it were a manual process or a more kind of outdated system. And the reason for that is that typically when you're not in a board platform, everything is very decentralized. So these very busy directors and trustees, they're having to go to multiple places to find information to prep for a meeting, which they don't have time to do. They're having to dig through emails to prep for a meeting, which they don't have time to do. And they're probably logging into multiple systems that they don't have the passwords for. That generates frustration. And more so leads to them not being prepared in those meetings. And when people are volunteering for service, like in a nonprofit world, or just serving in general on a board, their purpose is to really serve. That's the intent of their being on that board. When they don't feel like they're able to serve, it kind of softens the real reason that they're there. So this 2-part answer to that is yes, absolutely. We, have found that going to a board platform is easier. And when you refer to teaching the old dog new tricks, that's where we also come in with our implementation. We have a guided implementation that is customized for our clients. When we do a rollout, we work with you to work backwards from the desired first meeting and say, hey, here's the meeting we want to be live by. And from there, we'll conduct training from the administrative side to make sure that all of your settings from a security side, as well as just permissions and directory, all of that set up appropriately. Uh, Train from the administrative side with our implementation consultants. Also introduce them to our LMS where they'll have on their own training that they can go through various features and functionality. Once those meetings are generated, we then conduct board training. And that board training is very specific to the end user, to the board. And that's going to cover how do I log in, whether they're using the web version, whether they're using an app, how do I get to my book of materials, how do I take notes in those materials, how do I enable push notifications if I'm using an app, how do I search for past materials. So those are the kind of things that we'll go through in that training session. They're usually about 30 to 45 minutes long, depending. We can offer one-on-one director training if it's necessary, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's usually not, because it is pretty simple. Hey, David, New York City. I am actually planning my September trip to New York. So that, I need to make sure to get with you when I go there. Let's see if anything else. Okay. What else here? Okay. How long does an implementation take is a question we get, I would say, almost every single time that we speak with somebody. And I try not to ever avoid that question when it comes up, but it really does depend. Our average transition time is 30 to 45 days. But boards meet at all different types of, or all different kinds of cadence. So you've got boards that are meeting monthly, boards quarterly, some twice a year. And you're not considered live until you have that first meeting and OnBoard. So the answer is it's really up to you. I had a client in December and started working with them in their evaluation of OnBoard on a Monday. It was by Wednesday they had decided they wanted to transition into OnBoard and were ready to execute a subscription. As we were finalizing those details, she asked if they could have access to the system right away because they had a board meeting on Monday. We were able to do that. We got them access to the system. They had not conducted their implementation training yet, but she did conduct a meeting on that following Monday. Not that I would advise doing that, because I do think our training is really important before that board meeting, but she was very confident, walked herself and with a bit of my training or help to get through that meeting. So that's a very short span of time. Other folks do a gradual rollout if they've got multiple boards and multiple committees. So it really is up to you, but we will customize based on the need. Let's see, what differentiates OnBoard from other board software products on the market? That is a very broad question. I went through that, a couple of answers to that, I think a little bit ago, in terms of the support that we provide, our ease of use, without a doubt. We're continuing to innovate and roll out new features and functionality in the product, which a lot of legacy platforms, they just aren't. And especially if you're looking at AI and still wanting things to be very easy. And depending on other platforms, it really is kind of a feature set. For example, I know there's another platform I run into quite a bit. It doesn't have a calendar integration, so people find themselves having to hop in and hop out of the system to get calendar invites out. And that can be really burdensome, not just from the administrative standpoint, but also for the board. They're having to toggle between multiple places. Some have workrooms that you have to work in, and that just complicates things, makes it a bit more rigid. Overall, I would say that ease of use and support are probably the top two in terms of differentiators for us, and security as well. Let's see here. I mentioned the app. That is definitely a question. Like, do we have an app? So I just briefly touched on that, but absolutely. And I think that's a really important point because while from the administrative side, most of our clients are going to be working on the web version and they're going to be pulling in documents to build a book or to send out assessments or create evaluations and communicate to the board. More often than not, a board is going to access materials via an app. So they're on the go. If you've got an iPad or an iPhone or an Android device, that is where you can get all your board information. So wherever we're at, we're awesome. So they'll pull up just like push notifications do. And wow, have I got a lot of messages here today? But the app is really, really the most simple way for directors to get into the platform. And then we've got the various supportive browsers too. Another question that I wrote down shortly before this morning that I thought was important to mention, we've got only a couple minutes left. What are some common signs that a board is not operating effectively? So these are some triggers. And if you are curious, there is a book of demo QR code. So would welcome the opportunity to chat further and answer your questions directly. But these are signs that you might think about like, okay, well, maybe I should think about a board platform and chat with OnBoard. Are your meetings running on time or running out of time? So are things lingering into the next meeting, things that you have got on, things that you have on the agenda not getting accomplished? Are conversations drifting into operations when they shouldn't be because you've got the agenda? Directors ask basic clarifying questions mid-meeting, not prepared. Here we've got, okay. You spend the first 15 minutes of the meeting making sure that everyone has the latest materials. This is a big one. If at any point in time you are starting a meeting and you're having to double check that the directors don't have the latest and greatest, don't have the right materials, that is a for sure detail that we can help, or a board platform in general can help to enhance your overall governance. Your minutes aren't finalized until days before the meeting to approve them. So if it takes weeks upon weeks to conduct those meetings, that's definitely a sign. And then if action items disappear, so from one meeting to the next, didn't we talk about this? Shouldn't this have been completed? Things drag over. That would be another sign. Well, 2 minutes left. I would encourage and welcome any additional questions. Again, if you're watching the replay, comment and push replay or say replay and ask your question. I'll get back to you on that. So to my point about the year of the fire horse, there is no better time to rethink your board operations when you're looking to make bold decisions and progress and build momentum in 2026. I would love if you comment, think about any other topics that you'd love for us to go live on next time. I think this is a really fun opportunity to get people to understand what it is that we do, what we can provide, but in an environment where you don't have to schedule one-on-one or a demo necessarily. However, we would welcome demos at any time. We make it casual and informative, but really it's about identifying your needs directly, as every board is different. We work with all shapes and sizes, and I've never worked with a single board that has exactly the same needs. We'll customize that rollout for everybody. So thanks everybody for joining us today. I hope that this was helpful and that you join us the next time.